Hi, my name is Joe Jackson. I'm a journalist, author, interviewer, and broadcaster. I also happen to be a lifelong fan of Scott Walker, and I've recently published not just one, but two ebooks about Scott. The first is called The Fugitive Kind, and it contains the 1990 critique I wrote for a music magazine in which 13 years later, Scott wanted to use in the booklet that accompanied his CD box set, Scott Walker, in 5 easy pieces. Why it was never used is a story I tell in the second of my recent Walker ebooks, Scott Walker, Looking Back, Through Mirrors Dark, and Blessed with Cracks. Either way, Scott wanting to use my 1990 critique in his box set gave me as much of a thrill as the fact that when Fontana Records released the album Scott Walker Sings Jacques Brel circa in 1991, I not only got a name check in the credits, my critique was quoted in the album's sleeve notes. It says, in an article in 1990, Joe Jackson wrote, before leaving the Walker Brothers, Scott had discovered the works of Jacques Brel. It was one of the happiest days of my life, he claimed, when a girlfriend gave me the first English translation I'd seen of Brel's lyrics. Already decidedly Europeanized, Walker instinctively identified with the Belgian singer's black romanticism, his cynicism, and his, quote, rarely offering solutions, yet stating the confusion beautifully. During an interview to publicize his solo album, Scott, Walker also added, in a song, I now look for what I consider to be the truth. The people following me don't want sugar-coated rubbish. A song such as Brel's My Death is an important song, a strangely aching song, and people come away itchy after hearing it. In 1995, when I got to interview Scott, he resolutely refused to even look at the sleeves of his early solo albums, or Walker Brothers albums, which I'd brought along to help prompt his memory, knowing it had in time been dulled by the bottle, to paraphrase a line from his song The Bridge. But Scott was having none of it. He asked me not to even take the LP covers out of my shoulder bag. But what I want to play is the section in which I asked him about his love of Swedish director Ingmar Bergman, who had, of course, inspired him to write the song The Seventh Seal for his Scott 4 album. And then, well, this should come as no surprise, I asked him about his one-time love of the works of Jacques Brel. By the way, my Scott Walker ebooks are available from Amazon, Apple iBooks, Barnes & Noble, and, as they say, wherever good ebooks are sold.
Did you ever get to meet Bergman?
I never did. No. I tried to, but I couldn't. And when I got over there and I tried to discuss things with other Scandinavians, because I lived in Scandinavia for 2 years, they didn't want to know about Bergman. You know, they wanted to talk about pop music or whatever. They thought Bergman was boring. They didn't want to know, and I was shocked at this, and it really disillusioned me, And I thought, God, this is terrible.
Would you have liked to have met people like him and Brel, or would you rather have kept intact?
Well, I had the opportunity to meet Brel because I recorded some soundtrack there in Paris, and the guy.
Which is this? The Rope and the Coat? That thing?
Yeah, I think it was that. And the guy who was the French, whatever he was there, said Brel was doing Men of La Mancha.
All right.
And he said, I know I'd like to meet you. Come on over and see the show, and afterwards, no, and I couldn't do it.
You physically.
I was too in awe of Brel at that stage that I literally couldn't do it.
But isn't it true that he said, give him access to all my work?
Yeah, but I couldn't.
So he clearly rated what you.
Yeah, I know, but I couldn't meet him. You see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't. Did you change the? There was apparently that conflict over the if you go away, shadow of your shadow to shadow of your dog.
Am I seeing that?
You had shadow of your shadow, which I always preferred. Rod McKeown had the line, which was, "I'd have been the shadow of your dog."
I actually don't think either of them were good translations because I think Eric Blau or Morchima did one, and I don't think either of them were that good. But they were the weakest translation, that particular song, of all of the ones.
If you go away.
Yeah, I think.
And what overall did you?
It's
think
okay.
As what?
It's okay as a thing apart,
Okay, what overall, because there are so many people in the British music press and Irish who judge Brel on the English translations rather than know what those wonderful original texts were.
Yeah.
Overall, what do you think of, are we getting a false reading of the poetry of his work, or the worth of his work?
Well, I think some of it's all right. I think it probably is a false reading, but I think it's okay as a thing apart. What you have there is the enthusiasm of Schumann and Blau finding this stuff, and then you have the enthusiasm. If my records are any good, you have the enthusiasm of me finding it and wanting to get in the studio as quickly as possible and cut them live.
Right. But he was, I mean, something I had comment, I was only listening to it this morning, forgive me for also putting on one of your old tracks before I came over, was My Death.
Yeah.
Where you said, I want listeners to come away itchy after listening to this record.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a consistent factor in terms of, like, the arrangement, the sound of the bells, or the way the kind of almost dissonant sounds in the background as this singer sings of voluptuous death through sex. And there's again those tensions that later come out in Boy Child. So he had got, though you later ditched him, he had got that kind of sonic influence, hadn't he? At that level. Where
Brel himself.
Yeah, and things like My Death.
Yeah, well, he did. His interpretations are, in a lot of ways, of certain songs, very different from mine, because I didn't want to copy him. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to...
Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm just going to finish off this.
Okay.
My intention was to take the material and try and do something else with it. But if you listen to his stuff, a lot of it is rather burlesque, or mine isn't particularly. And also, I did a French interview sometime, I can't remember, last year or whenever, and they were saying also that in a lot of ways, Brel today over there is considered to be too much in your face as a singer. He seems to be always, everything's full out. There's not a lot of color. And then but I don't know if that's a general feeling, but these two guys seem to feel that was the... I think in this case what they're talking about is that Brel had very, in a sense, definite views about things. And things were very kind of black and white with him, and we now know more and more they're not that way. And so another kind of, I don't think they were exactly talking about subtlety, but another way of sneaking into these things is preferable now.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, Joe Jackson here again. I thank you for listening to this edition of the Joe Jackson Interviews podcast. And don't forget, my two ebooks, Scott Walker, The Fugitive Kind, and Scott Walker, Looking Back Through Mirrors Dark and Blessed with Cracks, are both available from all ebook outlets.